Rise! Rise in revolution! Rise! Rise in revolution! Everybody, one for all! Sound off! This is the call! Rise! Like we're alive! Tonight we rise! Make a better life! Tonight we rise! 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 Rise in revolution! Rise!
Hey guys, nothing important here, and today, we're back, finally, after like 2 weeks of having to do errands. Sorry I couldn't upload a video between now and then, but I had stuff to do, and I might have some more stuff to do, so we'll just see how it goes. But anyway, so, the video we're doing today is a video on, dimensional tearing, because I've always received questions about dimensional tearing as a whole, like, oh hey, what qualifies as this level on from this feed or that feed or whatever, right? So I said, I don't know when I'll be able to upload again after this, so I'll just drop a video on dimensional tearing to kind of help out the community a little bit, because I've noticed that there was no real videos on it besides like documentaries released that were approved by, physics PhDs, etc., and just stuff people wouldn't understand. So I decided just to do a simple, guide to, dimensional tearing in fiction, yada yada, right? But anyway, so to start off though, what qualifies as third dimensional? Well, whenever we quantify 3D, you can be anywhere from a street tier to like high universal, right? This means you could be anywhere from, just this normal thug on the street with a gun, hurting people, to be able to destroy the planet, to be able to like nuke galaxies, multiple galaxies, to even being able to destroy infinite space. So, to destroy infinite space, there's usually statements of, say, infinite power, or how this character has wields the concept of infinity, or how this character, has infinite speed, yada yada, right? Basically, whenever you're like high universal, you can destroy an infinite amount of space within a space-time, so that would be high universal or 3D, right? But moving on to 4D, which I don't know why people debate about this all the time. It's so simple to understand. Okay, so to keep it simple, 4D is anywhere from universal plus, which is the quantum fabric that holds infinite space, and it's basically like the fourth dimensional barrier between like that universe and like other universes, and that you would upscale that to a degree of, say, multiversal, be it low multiversal or multiversal, right? Now, people will like argue about where you put multiversal or low multiversal, but most people generally go with the Versus Battle Wiki take on low multiversal, which is like multiple universes up to like 1,000, and then like 1,001 and any degree finitely higher would just be multiversal. A bit, that line is a bit arbitrary. So, how you go about talking about the multiverse is at your discretion, but the term multiversal in of itself, it's really not under, like, contention whatsoever. A lot of people think it is, but it's really not. When you're multiversal, it just means, like, you can destroy multiple amounts of fourth dimensional time spaces, or that you can destroy, like, a fourth dimensional cosmos. So, to keep it simple, basically, when you're universal plus, you can destroy the quantum fabric that holds infinite space, and that to be multiversal, you have to do this to a high finite degree, be it thousands of times, 500 times, etc., etc. So, now for 5D, though, this is where the physics barrier kind of stops, right? Whenever you're 5D, in my mind here, I'm talking about fifth dimensionality, or even like fifth dimensional power. Depends on the verse, and it depends on the topic in question, but all characters with fifth dimensionality are inherently type 1 acausal and also measurable speed because you're no longer bound by linear time, nor are you bound by conventional causal nature, right? What qualifies as 5D would be like, oh, you could, be beyond space and time, right? Or you can transcend space and time, right? However, do not confuse saying that you're beyond space and time or transcending space and time for outerversal, because for outerversal, that means you transcend the concepts of space and time, etc., etc. Whenever we just move on to outerversal, you'll know then. So, basically, for 5D, to keep it simple, you're beyond conventional space and time. You're not bound by time linearly. You're now on this. You're now like an acausal being. Causal nature doesn't really apply to you. Fourth dimensional geometrical physics no longer apply to you either. So that's why you'd be considered, say, a fifth dimensional construct, right? Good examples for 5D would be, characters like Vector Prime from Transformers, a low-balled, well-fed Galactus from Marvel, any character that like transcends the metaverse from to like one dimension in DC. And there's just a lot of different characters, right? Plus, there's also a good few from Fate who have fifth dimensional feats or like fifth dimensional scaling. So yeah, there is a lot of 5D characters, right? Now, for 6D to 11D, right? Complex multiversal. Okay, so 6 to 11D is actually a very rare area. There's not a lot of characters that people scale to those levels simply because they don't know how to get them to those levels, right? And to keep it simple, 6D to 11D is just layers of complex multiversal, right? People generally consider 6 to 7D as low complex. Then people consider, 8 to 9D as, mid complex. And then, people consider dimensions 10 and 11 as high complex multiversal, right? Good examples of complex multiversal would be, say, avatars of Unicron, avatars of Primus, avatars of Vector Prime, some versions of Optimus Prime, Gilgamesh from Fate. There's also a good few complex multiversal characters like, say, well-fed Galactus from Marvel, mid-balled. You can even possibly argue Odin to like being 6D, although that's a really weird argument to make. I've not really seen, a consistent 6-dimensional Odin. But, take it at your discretion. Probably the 3 best verses you're going to want for, like, complex multiversal is probably Transformers, Marvel, and Fate. I think those 3 are the best verses, at least that come to my mind. There's other verses that could also have those complex multiversal characters, but I can't really think of them off the top of my head, so... And then, of course, whenever you transcend the 11th dimension, right, this is where you become hyperversal, okay? So, hyperversal means that you're a 12th dimensional construct, or that you have 12th dimensional power, and then any degree of finitely dimensional above, say, 12D, be it 16D, 34D, 100D, to even 1 billion D, that's still hyperversal, right? However, when you transcend hyperversal, you can either be just a higher degree of multiversal, or if you're infinitely in the hyperversal, you'd be considered high hyperversal, right? Or infinite dimensional. This is a more popular tier range for a lot of different characters that people love to debate at. Like, for example, people love downplaying, Featherine or Beatrice to high hyperversal because they don't know how to scale Umineko. Some people think that True Form Darkseid or Soulfire Darkseid is like high hyper. Some people argue, like high hyper one above all. I've even heard like a couple weird arguments for like high hyperversal Oblivion, which I think that's weird, but besides that, I know there's a few like decent arguments for high hyperversal Thanos. You have Primus and Unicron who are consistently at these areas or perform feats at these areas, at least in the true forms. So there is definitely a good amount of high hyperversal characters, right? But for 3D to high universal for characters as examples to those levels, just really any character who can go from being able to like destroy a city block or whatever to like destroy infinite space. Uh, a good high universal example, I guess, would be like a winked off super perfect Cell, because he was stated to like destroy everything. Now, whether or not you believe Cell is high universal, that's at your own discretion. But that's an example of what you want to consider at that area. Possibly another example of 3D would be like, say, any character who can destroy planets, like, say, Luffy, who can destroy, say, planets to like possibly star systems. Naruto, who can destroy star systems. Kenshiro, who can like go anywhere from like country level to possibly multi-solar system level. Depends on your scale. Kenshiro, so probably the most amount of characters you'll see in fiction naturally would be third dimensional characters, right? Now for fourth dimensional characters, one character who comes to mind is definitely Goku. He's multiversal. And by the way, to scale characters to multiversal, you can either be a set amount of times above, say, Universal Plus linearly, so that means you could say be low multiversal, or you could pull a Goku and just have a transformation that is just so many times above your base form, which could already be Universal Plus. That would just make you multiversal upon transforming. So there's that. I've already went over a couple examples for like high multiversal. I said, Vector Prime, like possibly Odin, because you can possibly get him in those areas, which is weird. I've even said that for 6D. So, but anyway, another few good examples, and this has become more popular lately, would apparently be like Yosuke Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho, right? Basically, there's this new meta that's popping up, which is like the universal to multiversal meta. Now, personally, I'm not really a part of that meta in specific, although I'm okay with it, because there's some form of argumentation for it. So possibly, Yosuke, you could even argue like a 4D universal Naruto, because, you can scale Momoshiki to universal plus, there's that argument. There's even like various other Marvel characters, like say Odin, like a not well-fed Galactus to like possibly moderately fed. And there's also just a bunch of other fourth dimensional characters in general who also qualify for those 4D ranges. That's also another popular area. But anyway, so besides dimensionality though, which is anywhere from like street tier to high hyperversal, now we're probably going to talk about the most popular meta in fiction right now, right? And this would be Outerversal, right? And by the way, in a video I did about some of the strongest verses in fiction and why they're at those areas, I mentioned things that would qualify above, say, the concepts of space and time. And basically what it is that the concepts of space and time, right, would be dimensional, right? For example, right, you could say have fourth dimensional space and fourth dimensional time. Just like you'd have infinite dimensional space and infinite dimensional time, right? So whenever you transcend those concepts flatly, you're basically like dimensionless, right? In this realm of limbo, right? There's a few different ways to get to these areas. One example is just you're blatantly beyond the concepts of space and time. Another example would be something called transduality. And basically transduality means that you're beyond all dualities, like you're neither living nor dead. There's like there's yin and yang from Journey to the West. A guy named Yogg-Sothoth is pretty popular for talking about Journey to the West, because it mentions the yin and yang. And of course, there's also DC, which has this thing called platonic concepts. I know, shocker, right? But anyway, DC has these things called platonic concepts, and basically platonic concepts are these aspects of reality, so to speak, and how they're perfections of those aspects, right? Like, for example, the perfect chair, right? How that chair embodies all chairs but is its own chair, and how and how it like is some fundamental, conceptual aspect of reality, that would be considered somewhat above baseline outerversal, which would be again around those conceptual space and time areas, would be around those transdual areas. You can even argue things like, say, inaccessible transcendences. You could even argue, say, fictional transcendences, yada yada, right? Once outerversal is on the table, how much you're into outerversal just completely depends on the scaling of the character and depends on the cosmology. Again, the video I did of some of the strongest verses in fiction is a decent example of some of those verses. So I recommend you go watch that video, which I'll even link below. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that this was informative and that I helped out the community a little bit. But anyway, my name is Nothing Important here. I hope you guys had a good day, and ciao. I will see you guys later. Bye.